Yo, let's get me up there. What's the good word, everybody? It's your boy DKB here. Let's talk some free agency. Let's talk some draft, right? It's been a lot of fun news going on around the New York Jets. It's been pretty quiet the last 2 days, honestly. Just in terms of anything, world beating, I guess world altering, right? But free agency has been upon us, and I think we've made some really, really strong moves, honestly speaking. A lot of what I've seen is really people just kind of dragging the Geno Smith signing, right? Everything outside of that, though, everything's arguable for sure, right? But I think if you keep in mind what's the goals of year two for Aaron Glenn, right? Based on those goals and the moves that they're making, man, I think there's a world where you can say we should be excited about what's happening in free agency to the tune of when you think about the draft and the fallout and the impacts from there, we can technically go best player available at pretty much every other position because we don't have a true legitimate need, right? Quarterback is locked in terms of who's going to be QB1. Now you can have the conversation of do you want to try to push for whoever you think might be a year one starter? Do you just bring in the developmental guy and try to figure it out and hope that Geno Smith can get you the wins to see the 2027 draft class if you're Aaron Glenn at running back? I think that's really probably the most intriguing one because I think honestly we're looking at probably doing like a what do they call it, a tag and trade for Brees Hall, right? We'll get into it, but Brees Hall's starting to he's starting to irk me a little bit. Wide receiver, obviously you have Garrett there. You do need to make sure you can get a wide receiver too, so you're not purely relying on Adonai Mitchell. But again, I think you can definitely pick up somebody between your day one and first half of day two picks, and you take it from there. Tight end, you're pretty much good at. Offensive line, you found a way to shore up, right? The defensive line has been shored up with depth. Linebacker, I think, is the next obvious place. And hence my last mock draft that I did, where I took two linebackers with two of those top 44 picks. I think it makes a ton of sense to make sure you aren't relying on just one guy to really be a star there. Cornerback is essentially good if you believe in Azari Thomas, but again, we've made some signings there to feel really good about. Safety, you shored that up, right? So I mean, outside of you doing something crazy like taking a kicker in the second round, like there's not huge gaping holes here anymore, which I think was what they wanted last year, but they were really relying on a lot of Robert Saleh's core. And we see that just didn't mesh. You talk about the coaching staff fallout and how they just really weren't put together in a really good manner either. So clearly a lot of things, right? But I do want to kind of dive into the free agency class here in a bit. Todd, what's the good word, my guy? Appreciate you guys coming in. Jets fan since birth, 129. What's the final number that's supposed to be there, my guy? What's what is that supposed to be, like 12/9, like December 9th, or what's the year that we're talking about? Because I refuse to believe this is supposed to be like, well, I don't even know what that would be, 1929 or something. I believe the Jets are going to carry four quarterbacks on the roster. I wouldn't be surprised, right? Aaron Glenn does make use of both sides of the practice field. And so to get through all of the reps, I think it does make sense. So you probably still see that addition in the draft. You have Geno, you have Brady Cook, you'll have a draft pick, and then you'll probably have a UDFA guy. And he'll essentially be the camp arm unless he makes some surprises, right? Chris, what's the good word, my guy? Hope everyone is all good with everything. Go JETS, like, support. Appreciate you, my guy. Appreciate you guys pouring in. I know I always pick super random times that I'm doing my live streams on, especially during the work week. So appreciate y'all coming to hang. 1921. Okay, that was the guess, but I couldn't quite. I see the numbers are working backwards. I got you. 1921, still rocking with us. That's fire. All right, so I'm pretty sure I can figure out most of the list off the top of my head, but let me just pull up a tracker and let's run through all of our additions right now. Work with me here, by the way. For those that don't know, normally if you catch me during the week doing a live, it is probably because I'm doing it on a lunch break or something. Boop, 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 boop. Free agency tracker. We don't have a nice visual just yet anywhere that I've seen, which is crazy. All right, here we go. Let's put this on the screen. All right, so here is the Jets free agency tracker, and as of today, so it looks like we've done a few moves on the offensive line. We'll kick it off with this. We did re-sign Chooks, Chukwuma Okorafor here. Doesn't show any amount, so we can probably chase that down. But like, this is kind of the luxury of having two bookend tackles, right? It definitely matters who's going to be your primary swing tackle person. But at the end of the day, people stop caring. Once you have those positions locked in and barring injury, we won't really end up caring who's back there, right? For the handful of reps that they're probably in throughout the course of the season. But Chooks was a guy that I liked last year, based on the experience that he was bringing in. And at least if we play to where his strengths and kind of focus seem to be, which was going to be on the right side of the line, I would be curious because I think this is essentially a competition for the backup swing tackle position. Max Mitchell was re-signed the other day. Are they going? Who would win that battle, right? I think you still probably want to carry four tackles, but you could make the argument that if there's an interior guy that can play all of the three spots and then maybe moonlight as tackle as well, then maybe that's more valuable. I would be curious who wins, right? And if Max Mitchell can beat out Chooks, I think that would at least be a big plus for the signs of him developing under Steve Heiden's guidance. Let's not forget, Max Mitchell was a guy that had some freaky level athleticism. Coming out of I don't remember what he was, Sun Belt Conference or something like that. Um, so not out of the norm here, not out of the norm. Yesterday, we re-signed Mykal Walker, the linebacker. He's coming back on a one-year deal. He got some key run towards the end of the year when we were really seeing a lot of injuries, different things of that nature. Again, not a name that I think anybody's going to, lose sleep over or go crazy about, start wearing green and white, painting the dog, all that kind of stuff. But we need to figure out that position, right? The hope is that one of these guys could help rise. I personally think linebacker is a much more critical position than what many people are saying. If Jamien Sherwood doesn't bounce back the way that we want, if Demario Davis suddenly starts aging like, blue cheddar cheese or something, then that's going to be a problem for us. And you don't want to put that much pressure on Kiko Mauigoa going into year two, especially after year one kind of has some mixed results, even though he really shined in a couple of games here and there. But we'll see, right? Revamp coaching staff. You ideally won't have that tension between the linebacker group and the position coach there. So let's see what happens. The move from yesterday, though, right? Or was this the 11th that I'm in? Yeah, the 11th. Dylan Parham coming over from the Raiders. This was a move that I really, really liked. I kind of broke it down in my short that I dropped yesterday because for whatever reason, Canva didn't want to upload the video that I was working on to kind of speak more in depth about all of those. Let me know what you guys think. But Dylan Parham to me is a really sneaky good pickup because he's extremely cheap for what we ended up offering him, right? This says 2 years, 20, but everything else that I keep seeing since the announcement is saying 2 years, like 16 to 17 million dollars, and then it's like 7 million plus like 7.4 or something like that of it guaranteed. Really, really good deal, especially if you're getting a starting caliber guard. At that point, excuse me, with essentially a team option, right? At that point, if he plays anything close to what he did in 2024, if he's even league average, anything like that is a strong plus. And this is a situation where if you're the Jets, you really just want to make sure that you don't have a liability on the offensive line. You don't need to have, we'll definitely take it, but you don't need to have 5 offensive line members that are all placed in the top 5 of their position, right? If you have some league average guys, that's great. But between Steve Heiden, if you believe in his ability to actually develop offensive players on the line, if you believe in the talent that he's going to be surrounded about, and you play better when you're surrounded with better players, that kind of ordeal, then Dylan Barham should be a guy that we're really excited about, right? All the scouting reports, everything that's picked up from the time that he was drafted to some of his highlight moments with the Raiders is when you take a look at him, he's kind of built like a brick wall, right? Thick lower body, tree trunk legs. You look at the upper body, doesn't look like he's a guy that's going to be moved and beat off the line of scrimmage that often. And, if I like the allure, right, of kind of the classic players that certain franchises seem to get, right? With the Raiders, you kind of got the guys that have kind of that nasty or aggressive mentality, all that kind of stuff. So bringing something like that onto the offensive line, in my opinion, definitely a huge, huge plus. And again, I wouldn't be surprised either. Again, taken to the talent, taken to the coaching. Who's to say that he can't be a top 15 type guard over the long term? And by the way, Iron Man streak, he hasn't missed a game from what I recall over the last 4 years. So you love everything about who you were able to find to replace him. And as long as it's not a steep talent drop off, I don't see why any of us would be concerned, really have any issues, anything like that with it. We talked about Max Mitchell. Cade York is the other guy, right? Hey, Hep, what's the good word, my guy? Cade York is a guy that many people are going to be pissed with. I think just objectively looking at the name, once you dive into what the experience has been, right? Something like a 73.7% career kicking percentage, missed 50, or excuse me, has 51 and 54 extra points converted. Former fourth round pick. You look at him bouncing around 6 teams over the course of 4+ years. And none of that screams why you should be excited, right? It's not like a guy that's even had strong spurts in like certain moments. I think last year in limited usage, you definitely seen a couple of sparks from him, a couple signs that there's some reliability. But if we're being honest here, how many people knows what it takes to actually develop a kicker or a punter, or really anybody on the special team side of things, right? All of that is very much so hidden. A lot of that is very much so high pressure situations, right? Where one false move, one, miss, one anything in a negative facet can be detrimental to the game, right? Especially when you're talking about stalemates, games where it's just kind of back and forth. Guys are flipping field position. Someone's hoping for something to break. You look at the Jets' general expectations on the offensive side of the ball, which is like, can we at least just get to double-digit points? Then you don't get excited about a kicker who may not be able to secure you the 3 when you absolutely need it. And that's also hoping or assuming that the defense can bounce back and be the reason that we're really limiting a lot of these offenses and giving our offense a chance to really go out there and make something happen. So I say all that to say it's not a billion and one examples out there, but there's enough example over the course of NFL history where you look at guys, even Nick Folk, right? When he flamed out with us, ultimately with the Rex Ryan years, he went to the Patriots, he became a stud, right? You look at Jason Sanders, for example, who I think had went to the Giants. He ended up being a stud later on in his career. I think Jake Gold, one of those. He ended up becoming a stud later on in his career. So there's at least a world where, I don't want to say objectively speaking, but there's a world where you can say, I don't know why, but some of these guys just seem to find the sauce once they get into a newer environment, and maybe they can figure out a way to make that work all of a sudden. Kickers should study the wins in their home stadium. Yeah, and I think that's another extremely good point. It's also, and I don't know what Cade York's leg necessarily looks like, right? I don't think he kicks like a high amount of, or I don't think he has a ton of opportunities kicking from like 45+ yards, for example. But one of the things that allured us about Nick Folk, or that, any of these other guys that have really had success in the past for us, we know how our stadium is. We know what the weather conditions can be like. We know the wind factors for us. And regardless of whether that impacts the game or not for us, we also know about the field issues and stuff. It almost feels like having that almost elite tier leg is kind of a prerequisite for us in terms of becoming a Jets fan and having success and being able to convert a lot of that stuff. And I feel like we probably kick a higher amount of like 45 to 50 plus yard field goals anyways, just because the offense is always struggling and we don't just want to be punting, 8 times a game. Um, so if I had any pushback, and again, I haven't verified this, I don't know how often he's been doing that or not. But if I had any pushback about Katie York, that would be one of the main stickers for me. How strong is his leg? And, do we expect that to really be a limiting factor? It's the same conversation that we have when we talk about quarterback, right? The guy almost needs to have an elite tier arm because we're going to struggle to push the ball down the field. But when we can, or when we do decide to do so, you don't want it to be a Tua conversation where it's like, you can't throw outside the hashes. You kind of have to baby up a lot of stuff scheme-wise for him, and really that whole scenario. Who else do we have? Nahshon Wright, our Bears defensive back pickup, the 1-year, $5.5 million deal. I think this is the one that really gets a lot of people hyped up because of the entire interception list, probably never to be seen again interceptionless streak for the entire season. And this happens to be the guy that got his hands on the most takeaways in the NFL in 2025. And it feels really good, right? Obviously, we talked about a lot of pros and cons to his game, the amount of yardage that he's really given up versus what he's able to provide back to the offense and stuff. This is a situation that feels very much so kind of like the Brandon Stevens gamble. It's just a much better scenario for us, right? This is a guy that kind of picks his poison, and he's very risky-esque, right? Kind of that Trayvon Diggs mold where he's going to take every opportunity he can to get his hands on the ball. But by virtue of that, he's also going to be giving up a lot of big plays, and more so and probably at a higher volume than what you really want. So he's not going to apply to what I'm thinking is going to be like a bend but don't break kind of style of defense. But that just may be the personality and kind of the mentality that we need on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, to know as an offense that if you're struggling, you virtually, and I'm talking about the 2025 season again, to know that you're struggling and you virtually can't depend on your defense at all to help you out other than going 3 and out and giving you a chance. They're not going to give you additional opportunities. I can imagine that being extremely demoralizing. So one of the next best things is we couldn't pick up Al Harris, his DB coach, not only during his tenure with the Cowboys, but also, again, when he went to the Bears. He's been his DB coach for essentially 4 years, right? So there's a certain way that he's been coached. There's, I'm sure, a certain level of detail with things that he can kind of break down with Aaron Glenn or just the DB room in general, and or we lost Dre Bly, but I'm trying to our cornerback coach. There's certain elements that he can bring about how he thinks, the style of attacking defense that we can kind of bring. And I think that would be one, not only alluring to Aaron Glenn and what he wants to preach and teach there, but two, what's to say that he can't be a leader in this group, right? I heard someone mention kind of in my Discord that he could have cornerback 1 level potential, right? 6'4" build. I think he's somewhere in like the high 180 range now, maybe in terms of size. Maybe it was 190s. But he's going to bring the C1B. He's going to bring the CB1 attributes. He's bringing C1B. God damn it. He's bringing CB1 production to the team. And let's say Brandon Stevens has the same type of season, right? One where he is being extremely sticky and he's kind of locking down to the degree of what we've seen from like a Bryce Hall in the past. He's locking guys down. He's just not getting his hands on the ball. Who's to say that for $5 million, you don't get Nahshon Wright to end up kind of taking over his position, and he's bringing all the same attributes. Attacks the run, has the size, can run with some guys to a certain degree, and in addition to that, he's going to actually force the turnovers. I'm willing to bet on that. I think this is probably one of the best defensive deals that we've gotten in quite some time, especially if you still believe in the coaching staff. I'm all for it. I'm all for it. And it's just a 1-year deal. So he has every incentive to want to go in there and ball out again. And hopefully the Jets end up reaping the rewards. Really, the only downside for us is that we couldn't get like an option year or something for us. So if and when he does ball out, we're going to have to try to renegotiate, an extension with him. And he's already 28, if I recall correctly. So, you have that whole situation about not really being able to benefit anything other than like a comp pick, essentially. But I guess if you're the Jets, you can kind of take that as you continue to try to build things up through the draft. Tyson, what's a good word, my guy? Appreciate you coming through and kicking it with us for a little bit. Obviously, we acquired Geno Smith. Now, I tried to kind of loosely run through this exercise in my head, and I'm still not 100% sure where I land on this, right? But Geno Smith does, to a certain degree, feel like the best, not only like fit, I guess is the word I want to use, but the best situation for us where there wasn't a significant drawback, right? At least in terms of off the field stuff. With Kyler, you had to be worried about Call of Duty. You had to be worried about film. You had to be worried about whatever former teammates are hyping up about how he's a trash leader or whatever that looks like. When you want to talk about Geno, he hasn't had an incident since he got rocked in the jaw. And I guess getting punched out and losing paychecks for 6 to 10 weeks, whatever it was, will do that for you. But with Geno Smith, I think the maturity is obviously there. You look at Pete Carroll coming to his defense and speaking pretty highly of him in terms of like the type of leader he is, what he felt like he could do on the field, the fact that he really took ownership of a lot of the catastrophe that happened with the Raiders and really put himself square in Geno Smith's corner in terms of his ability to try to have some success with the Jets in 2026. I feel good about it, right? There's still some mobility with Geno. You hear Ryan Fitzpatrick talking about the level of arm that he has, and this has been an underrated piece for him for quite some time. Geno Smith has potentially had like a top, I don't know, 7 arm in the NFL realistically, in that tier below the Josh Allens and, Patrick Mahomes of the world. He can make that thing cut through the air, pretty nicely. So that you have leadership, you have the lack of any non-football influences that are going to take away from the team. You have the fact that during his kind of 3-year stretch with the Seahawks, he was extremely highly productive, not only in situations where he needed to be the primary driver of the offense, but also when they wanted to cater to a run-heavy approach. So depending on what the Jets do at the running back position and stuff like that, you could definitely see a world where Geno's benefiting from all of it. And, if you're Garrett Wilson, by the way, I have to mention you're kind of jumping for joy to a certain degree, right? Geno Smith essentially helped create JSN to become wide receiver 1, right? I don't think, for whatever reason, he doesn't necessarily quite get that credit and all of that. And obviously, he's not part of the records that JSN's been breaking and all that lately. But like when you look at who Geno Smith has been surrounded around when he was with the Seahawks, he made those guys look much better than what anybody else was really talking about, during that tenure there with them. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited for it nonetheless. I don't really get kind of like the anxiety around what will happen when he's there, but we'll see what happens. For me, though, I think there's definitely a strong possibility that Geno Smith can have the offense play up to the level of talent that they'll potentially have, considering you might have Mason Taylor coming back finally healthy in the offseason, hopefully a year of additional development with the offseason. You're going to have Garrett Wilson back healthy. You're potentially going to have a Carnell Tate or a Mekhi Lemon, or you'll have a Jordan Tyson. Hopefully not my favorite of the trio. Or you'll have one of those secondary guys like your Chris Brazzles, your Skylar Bells, your Jeremy Bernards, anything like that. And you'll have Breece Hall coming out of the backfield, pending him being traded or something crazy happening. You'll have Braylon Allen coming back. You'll have, Isaiah Davis, who I think still is criminally underutilized within that offense. But I think there's still, you can make this argument for any quarterback that would have stepped in, but given his most recent history, given what he can still do physically, and again, given the fact that he's not walking around as just a walking bulletin board for issues, I don't see why many people aren't. You don't have to beat down the board that beat down someone's door that we're gonna suddenly have a ton of Pro Bowlers or All Pro guys on offense and all this kind of stuff. But to say that Geno doesn't give us a strong chance to be competitive in basically any game that we're really involved in, I don't know if I quite believe that to be true, right? We picked up Dane Belton, safety, right? Part of our rebuild back there in the secondary. Dane Belton, from what I looked at, really, again, another strong move, very akin to kind of the Dylan Parham guard pickup from the Raiders. Dane Belton, another guy, kind of that Ashton Davis mode. It seems like in limited reps, he just always happens to find the ball. I think it's something like 6 interceptions across, 666 coverage snaps, something like that. You take a look at the additional forced fumbles and stuff that he would have been able to get a cause and be a part of recovering and stuff like that. And he's a strong special teamer. So it's like you're really getting the best of all of the worlds. So I could see Chris Banjo being extremely happy about him. I could also see Dane Belton potentially trying to challenge a Malachi Moore for an actual starting position, right? And maybe Belton feels like he's ready to actually break out and kind of capture a starting position. And these are the kind of risk-reward moves that you love to see, right? Not a huge compensation that's being sunk in there. Probably could have had a pretty favorable market. I think the safeties are moving a lot slower than I would have necessarily expected. But then you also get the veteran leadership of having a Minkah Fitzpatrick in that room. And I think that's going to be extremely valuable for everybody, right? Especially since he doesn't have to be force-fed into being the free I was gonna say free agent, the free safety-esque player that's back from everybody, and so maybe doesn't necessarily need to have to communicate at a huge level and all that kind of stuff too. Does that lead us to mid? Okay, so we bring back Andrew Beck. I don't think there's really a ton to speak about here, right? I think this is just classic move. You want to fall back as part of the offense for Frank Reich. He could do a little bit of everything. He could do it at a pretty solid level. He's really, at times, he was one of the few players that were really making any kind of positive plays for us in the passing game or like through the ground. So much respect for him for sure. But love the move, right? I think it was also, just $1.5 million deal. So it's not like you're paying him, Alec Ingold money or anything like that. Or, a Patrick Ricard, something crazy. And then we get our initial wave of signings, right? So everything that the Jets were really doing from the first couple of days was an emphasis on the front seven. And I think Aaron Glenn has made good that he was going to have an emphasis on trench play on both sides of the ball. And everybody that we had, everybody that we picked up essentially had their bread and butter, right? David Onyemata, stingent, run defender, right? A guy that has some additional opportunities to try to get after the passer, but he's a run defender. Demario Davis, he's a run defender. You look at Kingsley Enagbare, he's a run defender. Joseph Asai, he's probably going to be your one guy where you say, all right, maybe this is more of our pass rush specific type player. But again, not someone that's just getting ran over in the run game, at least from what I've seen initially. Minkah Fitzpatrick, stringent run defender, right? So T'Vondre Sweat, run defender. Absolutely love it. And so the expectation should be 100% that, in my mind, we're a top 10 run defense team. You can bring in anybody right now within that nose tackle, defensive tackle rotation, and you can say, I expect this guy to win the majority of the matchups that they're going to see over the course of the game. And then when you look at the edges, you might be taking some steps back there. Having a Will McDonald doesn't help in that facet. Losing a Jermaine Johnson doesn't help in that facet. But again, Joseph Aside, maybe he can become something to that degree. You'll see what you do with like an Arvell Reese or something. But you guys know where I'm leaning, at least based on my last mock draft, right? I think Sonny Styles is the guy that I want to see most at number 2, just because of the level of impacts he's going to have at essentially each level of the field. So let's see what happens there. I think overall, let me know what you guys think, right? I think if I gave a grade to free agency right now, I think C plus would probably be my worst grade. I want to go with B minus, but I would say not having a true total package edge player that we targeted may be problematic. I think the confirmation as well that we're not purely going to a 3-4-4-3. So the one thing that threw me off was we got the press conference from Aaron Glenn prior to free agency happening. And Aaron Glenn mentions, hey, no, we're a 4-3 defense and we're going to be multiple. So we're still going to do all the things 3-4, 4-3, even, odd fronts, etc. But then we got the T'Vondre Sweat trade. We still haven't heard anything from Aaron Glenn. And yet everybody is saying, hey, we're suddenly 3-4, right? End of story. That's just what it's going to be. And I don't know if that's purely the case. And it does make some sense based on the type of bodies that they brought in and what they want to do. But I'm just not 100% committed or even like majority thinking here that that's absolutely true until I hear otherwise, right? I still think the expectation for me is we're looking at more of a 4-3. And then, yeah, maybe we're playing 3-4 at a higher percentage. I don't know. But I just didn't think that we were really we're not built to really be able to operate a 3-4 defense, right? Which is why, again, in my mock draft, I targeted 2 linebackers, stuff like that. But we're not really built per se in that way. And we haven't done a ton of stuff in that linebacker room to necessarily say that we should still be highly confident, right? Again, 3-4, you're going to roll out 4 linebackers. Demario Davis as your Mike, you feel good about. Jamien Sherwood, let me know what you guys think, right? I don't think anybody is extremely excited about his ability to potentially bounce back. Yeah, so Jamien, Kiko, Michael Walker, like none of. For one, I don't think you really have the depth to be able to pull that off necessarily at this moment. 2, I don't know. Maybe Jamien Sherwood pulls off being a will linebacker better, right? He becomes Robin to Batman. He needs CJ Mosley and essentially to be able to thrive. But then like as your Sam and Jack, outside linebackers, strong side, rush side, etc. Kiko, suddenly the guy that nobody really wanted on day 3 is going to be the guy that everybody is expecting to be able to step up and take on this huge role, stuff like that. I don't know. I'm not saying he can't become that. I'm not even saying I'm not happy about what he could become or anything, but it was already a shaky fit last year. It could be a shakier fit this year now with having to adjust to a new scheme again. And he wasn't already known to be like an extremely highly athletic linebacker. I think attacking downhill and stuff definitely unlocks a lot of stuff for him. But that lateral movement that he's probably going to need a little bit more now is going to be something that causes some issues for him. AG is going to have teams guessing. And yeah, that would be the best part, right? Like it would be the one thing I'm going to probably have to struggle to seeing on like game day when I'm looking at all 22 or when I'm able to catch some of the games live will be like T'Vondre Sweat running out there for one play, then having to run to get out for Jowon Briggs to come in, or for someone like Onyemata to come in, and they're going back and forth, every other play or something like that. Essentially, we'll see. I would like for there to be a decent rotation, but for some guys to be locked in for like a certain percentage of predictable enough snaps. But having the mystery is just part of being able to um, kind of insulate yourself with an advantage that many teams can't really pull off. I think Sherwood will be better because when he was good, he had CJ Mosley with him. Yeah, and I think that would be the thinking with having a Demario Davis, right? Next best thing to having a CJ Mosley, and depending on who you talk to, you could probably make the argument that Demario Davis has turned into maybe a little bit of a better player than what CJ Mosley was. Um, but I also kind of don't like the idea of, like, how do I want to say this? Like, you essentially rise to the level of being a linebacker one, but then when you truly get all the responsibilities and the details and stuff, you end up flopping. It's not even like, okay, he wasn't quite the LB1 I thought, but he's a strong linebacker too. Jamie and Sherwood looked damn near unplayable last year for good stretches. And it was like, you look at how he was attacking run fits, and, he's getting tricked on multiple misdirections. He's having guys literally just kind of come and lay him out when he did happen to find a guy in the hole. And I don't know. It's for a guy who mostly has been talked about in high regard as bringing the athleticism to do the side to side stuff, but also being a key communicator. That defense as a whole just looked like nobody knew what the hell their job was outside of maybe Sauce, right, when he was on the boundary and doing his thing, and outside of a few guys here and there, like maybe Malachi Moore as a rookie, which is crazy to say because not like he was a world beater or anything, but to think that he was one of the few guys that looked like he knew what he was doing on a team that had enough vets, wild to think about. That does bring me to, though, and I want to talk. I doubt I'm going to have time to really kind of like talk through some mock draft stuff with you guys, though, because I'll bounce here in like maybe 15-ish minutes. But I'm curious what you guys think. Draft plans. What has free agency done to really change that for you guys, right? Because for me, nothing's really changed because I think I've already been within the last couple of exercises that I've run through this. I've been on a different track than a lot of the other content creators I've seen, or just people I've chatted with, or the mock drafts that I've seen out there, just by me starting things off with Sonny Styles. Do you think, because we've been so defensively focused in free agency, do we have to do the 180 now, and this becomes, pick up the wide receiver at 2, pick up the guard at 16, or the tight end if Kenyon's there or something like that? Or do you guys still fall into the merits of this is kind of best player available just wherever we happen to be at now within those first 2 days? I don't think we will still be using the Chinese fire drill defense next season. That's a good way to put it. That is damn well a good way to put it. Love you. Which, by the way, for the AG people that were like he needed to be gone last year immediately, it is what it is, right? I'm not arguing that point. Because I still support him, but that's neither here nor there. The one piece that people would bring up on kind of rare-ish occasion that I actually agree with is to see that defense going the way that it did. Like by week 6, week 7, if you even wanted to give a guy a rope, to see it going for the stretches that it did, and to not have jumped in and said, I can't be the CEO right now. I need to be the defensive coordinator and make sure that this thing is at least on track. That probably would have at least quieted a lot of the noise. So that's the one piece I don't necessarily love, and based on kind of what he's talked about now, definitely seems like an immediate learning lesson for him. But we'll see. Hopefully, we don't have any other like obviously ridiculous moments on the field. But let's see. BPA all day. So let me know what BPA looks like for you. Again, I know we don't have like the mock draft in front of me, but in your mind, who's the best players at the top four, draft spots that we're going to be picking at that you're taking? I'm curious what the breakdown is going to be between like offense and defense, or if it's offense heavy, defensive heavy, etc. And you're kicking things off with Reese at 2. I don't hate anybody that we can necessarily pick because I think everybody brings something. To me, Arvell Reese is a one-year wonder that broke out in a pretty good way. I don't want to say solid because I think that's underrating it, but I don't want to say breakout in terms of, he just had this elite tier season. But for the multitude of things that he was asked to do, he was impactful in every single way possible. It gives me a little bit worried. He's kind of that classic player where you look at and you say, all right, he has the athleticism. We've seen him produce at a high level in college for at least the one season. He'll probably be a better pro than what he was a college player, right? As he continues to acclimate and adjust and all that kind of stuff. But so like Bailey has an elite thing, right? He's going to get after the passer, and I think from day one, he's probably a double-digit sack guy year in and year out. Arvell Reese, I don't really get that sense, right? I think it truly depends. Micah Parsons keeps being the comp, so if he's that, then yeah, he'll be the double-digit guy. But Arvell Reese to me would be just a further developed Jermaine Johnson from day one, right? So what that would mean to me is double-digit sack potential, but not necessarily guaranteed, because we may need to rely on him or be in situations where he's going to help us best in terms of being able to set the edge and things like that. And then we get the benefit of he has the athleticism, so we can drop in coverage and we can use the spy when we need to, when we have, the Lamar Jackson matchups or the Josh Allens and stuff like that. But he may not ever really be able to commit to one position and kind of hone his craft and do all these kind of things. And something like that scares me at a position where we really need to have a solidified player, right? Bain, I think, could be that day one guy that immediately, he's going to kill it in both sides. But everybody's going to argue the arm length and all that kind of stuff. And even if he ends up nailing it, the initial kind of thought process will be, all right, well, why didn't they try to trade back if that was an option, or that it just wasn't a strong value pick? And so my preferred options, I think, if it was me right now, I wouldn't pick Bailey again, only because I think, this is just kind of running back the Will McDonald plan. And I think you would have to trade Will McDonald, which also means you're probably not doing it during the draft. And I don't know, 2027 is supposed to be better anyway. So maybe people are just stockpiling picks to try to, figure that piece out. But unless you're guaranteeing a Will McDonald trade at some point, you don't take Bailey. And so to me, the only two players I would probably realistically be considering in any mock draft that I was to do going forward, it would probably be Sonny Styles or it'd be Rueben Bain. And then I'll figure things out from there. But the argument I keep having in my head is if I don't take, I think the difference between Rueben Bain and like the next true like edge type guy that should be able to impact the run and the pass, I think is steep enough. But the difference between that group of guys and then like Arvell Reese and stuff, not necessarily as crazy. So I keep kind of having this internal battle like, all right, well, how far can I wait? Can I skip 16-2 to get an edge guy? Can I also skip, pick 33? Can I wait till pick 44? And then at pick 44, what does that look like? Do I have a handicap in terms of athleticism? Am I getting another guy that's kind of like Rueben Bain with shorter arms that's been productive, but he's doing it at a lower level? Like, I still need to do more mock drafts and try to think through that and see what kind of feels realistic. But we also can't forget, we're going to have the teams that are going to throw, huge curveballs at us. Fuck it. Trade Breeze, take Love at 2. I don't know if I'm there. I think for what is worth, Jeremiah Love and like Caleb Downs to a degree have been the consistent names that are just like, these are one of the top two guys, regardless of position. Maybe top 3 now when you consider like the Sonny Styles combine and all that kind of stuff. But The only time that I care about the like conversation when it comes to, Jeremiah Love it too, he's going to walk into the NFL as a top 7 paid running back or whatever from day one. That doesn't bother me. What that does mean though is he has to instantly produce like that top 7 guy. Otherwise, you never really see the value of the pick because you're paying him like a top 10 guy now. Even if he does live up to the expectations, let's just say you get 4, straight years of 1,000+ yard season through on the ground, 400+ yards, maybe more, right? Maybe he could be the 1K ground and rush guy on the ground. Then it just ends up becoming, okay, well, now we still have to pay you like a top 5 guy again. And so from that perspective, you just never really get it. And then you get the early position burnout and stuff like that. But that would really be my only issue there. But then at the end of the day, like, just get the guys that you know are probably going to perform like that and that you have to pay, and let that be a conversation that you have to figure out and debate over later. But just get him in the building and get that production and that benefit now, and you figure out the rest later. Dalton Rodriguez from Texas Tech. So I absolutely love this dude, and most of it is purely because of the instincts and the playmaking. And for reference, Johnny, I don't know if you would have seen the last mock I did, right? I only keep bringing this up just because it was kind of the latest thought process I had around this. But I took Sonny Styles at 2. I took Akeem Mesidor at 16. Jacob Rodriguez was still there at 33, and I wasn't expecting it. I drafted Jacob, even taking Sonny, right? And in my mind, Jacob Rodriguez was immediately replacing Jamien Sherwood and maybe even challenging Sonny Styles to be like the Mike guy because he also has a ton of leadership traits and stuff. But for Rodriguez, and I haven't even finished breaking him down all the way, by the way, but I think he's extremely smart. I think when you look at the former quarterback background, not only does he understand how pass protection is set up, he understands kind of from the view of him having to figure out on, when he's audibling in and out of plays and all that kind of stuff, what's happening with the running back. So he just always seems to be able to fit running lanes. He knows how to get after the passer. We clearly see from the combine, he has more than enough athleticism to survive in the NFL. He has the smarts. People talk about the size, but 6'2" whatever he was, and like 234 pounds, something like that. He's more than serviceable to live, right? When Jamien was having his breakout, being almost 15, 20-ish pounds lighter than what Jacob Rodriguez is, I'm not worried about it. There's a world where you can obviously make this kind of thing work. And I think if you can even pair him next to a DeMario, you can pair him next to a Sonny, etc., he benefits even more, right? Just having 2 elite guys right next to each other is awesome. And again, I haven't even mentioned all of the plays that he makes on the balls. The peanut punch, being able to put the ball on the ground, it feels like almost at will when he has a clean look. The ability to also jump on some of those balls. And when you look at his understanding of the passing lanes and the windows that are going to be there and getting a jump on that because he's known how to read the offense correctly, that is so enticing to me. Like I honestly don't even think he'd make it at 33 for us. And I probably wouldn't take him at 16 just because there are going to be like more important needs that are potentially there where, I think Jacob Rodriguez will probably be linebacker 3 in most people's mind, right? It's like Sonny is CJ, then it's probably him. Whereas at 16, you're probably saying, well, I can still get wide receiver 2 maybe, or, again, maybe Kenyon's there. Maybe you're getting the top guard. I don't know what that'll look like, but if it's me and I can find a way to land Jacob Rodriguez, if he's available somewhere in that second round, I don't care what I did on day 1, I'm targeting him every time. I think the dude's an absolute killer. I fight the downs combo within myself. Caleb is so good. Yeah. Like in a parallel universe, we would be able to snag Caleb Downs. We'd be able to snag like Sonny pre-combine and all that when they thought he was like a mid-round pick. You grab Caleb Downs, you grab Sonny, And if you didn't grab Sonny, you grab like Kenyon Sadiq, or again, you grab the best wide receiver. And then at 33, before Jacobs rise, you grab him depending on whatever you did at linebacker before. And then again, you grab, Emmanuel Pregnon or something with the second of the second rounders. But I think we've satisfied that piece enough to where I'm like, okay, Minkah Fitzpatrick can be our, intermediate Caleb Downs-esque player. We're not finding another guy like him, right? I just think the totality of the safety position can make up for what Caleb Downs would have potentially done, I guess is what I'm getting at here. But yeah, I would have early in the offseason, before all of the things, I've been fiending for him for sure. Good call out, Tyson. We got some Texas Tech fans in my Discord that, one, not only put me on early to Jacob, but we're riding for Jacob strong, strong, strong. Like, I like Jacob so much that I might just keep track of how he's doing in the NFL if he doesn't find a way to be in the green and white with the Jets. Yeah, for sure. Imagine in another world we draft Reese, Sonny, and Downs because we trade back to get him. Imagine. Wait, who are you? Who were you saying we would trade back to get? Because like for the three players that you mentioned, there's probably a realistic chance they all go in the top 10, and so you're either saying somebody dropped outside of a realm we really didn't expect, or you're saying that we traded up in order to grab three of these players. Which I've already seen all the early jokes too, Ohio Jets and all that kind of stuff. When you look around at the amount of Ohio State players that we do have, it is kind of funny. Trade back into the first. That'd be a pretty steep price. I don't know how we would pull that off, really. Because what? Who would we? So I guess we would take Reese at 2. We would trade 16 to go up, and then whatever picks, and we would grab, I guess, Sonny. And then assuming pick 33 wasn't included in the initial trade up with 16, I guess we trade up at like, I don't know, pick 10 or something and try to get Downs if he's sliding. Or I guess pick 9, because from everything that I'm seeing, it sounds like the Bengals, that's probably the last place that he gets to. Yeah, in another parallel universe, I guess that would definitely be a full option for sure. Sorry, I'm just looking at something here on the back end. Let me know if you guys have any last minute questions. Though I got a couple more minutes here before I dip out to go grab the kiddos. I'd love to know kind of what you guys are thinking question wise with anything. Quarterback. So just loosely for the question that's there, yes. I think I'm definitely not considering anything until that first, that pick that we have in the 4th round. And I know of some names. I'm not like in love with anybody or committed to anybody just yet, but I think it would be the normal stuff, right? It's like if Taylor Green is still there, I think you try to pull the trigger on that. I talked about the North Dakota State, South North Dakota State guy. We'll see what happens there. Hey, last minute appearance. Let's go. Let's get it.
I had to call in real quick, man. I was grubbing real fast. But first off, love your content, man. Always been a fan, dude. Every time you get on, it's always been on point. Yo, Rodriguez, I can't believe he's not being talked about enough. it's crazy, which I'm kind of glad because I'm hoping that he's there and we take a shot at this guy. I've been
Oh yeah.
on board saying that I want two linebackers. I thought we were gonna potentially do that in free agency,
Hmm.
right? The Demario Davis, I'm kind of like in between about it because of the age, but he's still good, you know. So I don't know, man. But dude, so I wanted to ask you this, and the quarterback conversation was all right. So let's just say we end up going. I'm gonna say Reese, and then I'm gonna say let's go like with a wide receiver that potentially could fall at 16, which it might be Tyson, right?
Hmm.
Because I don't think Makai falls to 16 for us. And then you're seeing Ty Simpson is dropping and dropping, is dropping, right? And he's right around where you feel comfortable to maybe get him in the after like the 25th, 26, 27 around there. Do we take a swing at him? Would you say, is he worth it?
I think we're almost kind of screwed either way. Like I I don't want to take a quarterback in the first two rounds because we've seen how that played out, right? Like you have it's funny enough, right? Geno Smith is coming back, second round pick, wasn't supposed to need to play. Mark Sanchez gets injured, he ends up coming in. You have obviously the first round status, people are going to expect you to play, and unless we pull off some kind of like Jordan Love type situation, like that's not happening. We're going to see him. So to me, it almost like any quarterback that we would get, unless we strongly feel like there's some way that he could be a year one starter, we're going to end up putting him in a bad situation where we could have let him set and develop and maybe he would have had a chance. But then if you sit him, all of the expectation next year is going to be, oh, no, you got Arch Manning or you have Julian Sand or you have all of these guys and they're going to be year one ready. So why waste that pick? Go get the guy in 2027. And so to me, it's probably more just like bad resource management than anything, unless for some reason we're almost positive that we wouldn't use those top picks on a quarterback next year.
And that's so like my convo when it comes to that about potentially being able, because we would have to trade back in, right? Back into the first. And it's because of that 5th year option
Mm-hmm.
when you get that first round pick. So if what you're saying, right, in regard to still in 2027, bro, I'll be honest with you, I would not be mad if we still get a quarterback then because we're still going to need a backup. So what if Ty Simpson, right, do we think Gino's going to be the full year, right? And then there's going to be some time at some point where Ty Simpson is going to have to come in. You know, I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there because everything that I'm seeing, everything that I'm reading, I think it's going to be Gino and I think it's going to be Tyrod. I think Tyrod's going to come back.
Oh, see, I can't get a sense of what's happening with Tyrod. It feels like he's closer to being out the door maybe than coming back just from some of the stuff I saw. But like,
Which I thought too, because I don't know if you know, but I live in Virginia,
oh,
right?
okay,
He's from the Hampton Roads,
yeah,
and he's loved out here, bro. And he does a lot of stuff for Hampton University. And so they were like, essentially like he has his own stuff going on, and I'm like, yo, he's setting it up. Like on the
mm,
Glass Clips video, he was rocking a Jets jersey on there, right? Which I thought was dope. But it's I think it was his uncle or pops, but then we get Gino. Him and Gino are like this. They work out in the off season together. You
yeah,
know,
I did see
have
that.
Bible studies together and all of that. So I'm like, yo, he sees his boy coming through. Like, let's run it back, right? And then you heard what Gino said. I mean, you heard what Tyrod said. He was like, I would love to be part of the organization that ends up turning it around.
Mm,
But then you get put in Ty Simpson in there to learn from two guys that have made it as almost journeymen now. Because I feel like Geno Smith is a journeyman
yeah, for sure.
that you could potentially have with Ty, but you have that extra year. It's just a thought out there. Like, do you think he's worth it? Because from what I saw in the combine with his foot mechanics, and the release that he was getting the ball out and the placement of it, I like what I saw. But then you get a flyer and a guy like a Taylor, like a Tylon going Green. I can't ever say his first name,
Yeah.
right? That has the athletic attributes that he had that jumped off the chart itself. But do you use him as a prior situation all over again? Like I wouldn't get him in the RHS. But my bad, I'm rambling. Ty Simpson,
Nah, I feel you.
like your thoughts on that, man? On what I was
Yeah,
just
like for me, if we take a quarterback, regardless of when it comes, and we take the quarterback and we'll see how they deal with like managing that. But like even the Taylor Green conversation, I haven't like broken him down enough to really see like where he's at as a passer. I've heard some stuff from like Senior Bowl and all that that sounded really, really good about him picking up and taking to the coaching. But regardless of the athleticism, like he could be clearly the best athletic quarterback we've ever seen in history. I wouldn't have cared. I want someone that is a quarterback first, and then they have the option of being able to go and kill it in the run game. So like whether it was Ty Simpson and we do take him in the first round at some point or in the second, whatever that looks like, or if it ended up being Taylor Green, as long as there's a realistic chance that they can actually develop at a quarterback, then that's all that really matters. Like I think the ceilings are obviously different because if you take Ty, you're expecting him to really be a starter. And if you take Taylor, then you're probably like, all right, well, if he becomes the backup, then that's already a win. And, if he happens to see the field a little bit more and he looks like a decent starter, then that's cool too. But yeah, I just find it to be a harder time for all the good moves that we've made in the offseason so far, in my opinion, anyways, that throwing a quarterback into the plans early will probably throw a wrench that'll end up just if Aaron Glenn does have a chance of surviving, the quarterback situation will be a reason that ends up killing it for him.
DK, and I agree with you. I'm very wearying on time. I don't want to do that, but that's been the conversation now that everybody's like throwing up there. I'd rather go out and get me a Luke Altmaier that nobody's talking about, nobody knows about him and all of that. But the kid is good. The mechanics there, the arm is there, right? The grit that you have as a quarterback that you need, you have it. You got a guy like a Drew Alar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very raw, essentially, right? But you saw the footwork there in the combine. The footwork's the footwork. No matter if you don't have pads on, or if you don't, or if you do have pads on, So all of it's just a very, it's a crapshoot, right? Like, and Luke Altmaier is a guy that could potentially be your backup, right? And he's not going to have all of that pressure to be the quarterback and all that. And if you end up getting in 2027 a quarterback, he's not going to fight you for that. I mean, look, I say all this and Geno Smith could be out of nowhere. Geno Smith does his thing, right? Because he has a line that's going to be blocking for him and all of that. We could hope for that. And I don't know, man, dude, I've always loved your takes, bro, because it's not the same takes that are out there. And when I say like guys like Luke Altmaier, you're like, yes, that guy.
Yeah, I don't think like from what I've heard and what I picked up on, again, I probably have much better insights once I dive more into the quarterback class, but like him and Nussmeier not too far off. And like from a physical profile, from what I hear, Altmaier is probably more better fits in the NFL than him. It's just Nussmeier probably has the better like mechanics necessarily right out of the game. He has the coaching background and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, Luke Altmaier in like the 5th or 6th or anything like that, I think will probably still be a big win for us, I'd imagine too.
100%. And there's so many wide receivers in this class that are not getting enough love. Dude, the kid Kobe Young out of Georgia, right?
Yeah.
Dude, 6'5", like 200 and something, and dude is still running like a 4.5 if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I think he was like high for like 4.52 or something like that. But yeah,
at that size and height, bro, give me a guy that is over 6'5". I'm with it. The catch radius is so much bigger for a quarterback. I'm telling you, who's gonna love him is gonna end up being Geno. You got the kid Branch, another one that nobody's talking about. Jacoby Lane, the kid out of Illinois State, Daniel Sopkowicz, that nobody's talking about.
oh, yeah, I haven't even peeped that one
Yo,
yet. Yeah,
you get a chance, bro, he broke so many records over there. I think he has something crazy like 20 something touchdowns last year, right? Or it might be even more. The dude's a touchdown machine. His comp is Cooper Kupp, right? And Adam Thielen. The kid is a dog. You know, the route running is there. The footwork that he has as a receiver is in the hands. That's the other part. He had the most contested catches out of anybody in college. Check him out. Give him a, you know what I mean? So like, I'm really excited to see how deep our scouting team is gonna go this year.
Yeah.
You know, and I believe in what they're doing, man. I know a lot of people give crap to Glenn, and I get it, you know, because we're still losing, but you got to be excited. I know you got to head out. I had to come and show some love, man. I'm glad you put the link in. I'm glad you got him this time, right? It was dope, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming through,
bro. Keep knocking out the content, man.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Definitely hoping to throw more of these on because I love, you've been on a couple of times before too, so I love being the back and forth. You put me on probably the more names than most of the people I can recall that might have jumped on when it comes to like draft guys. I got to kind of lock in and take a look at again. So as far as one of the things I always love about like our little community of people, because we're deep in the trenches. We might as well just pick up jobs with the scouting staff and
well, do it all day, every day. I got to get you on the show, man. I know we've been talking and trying to get you onto there, man. So love to sometime. We'll figure it out, man. Because I know the time difference is a little bit what I think kills it.
I was about to put my number out there, but
I'll hit you up. I'll send you on the I think it was IG if I'm not mistaken. So I'll on there and then
maybe on there. If not, I don't know, somebody from the Discord, I'm sure either has the information or whatever, but I'll find it somewhere. We'll link up. We'll make something happen.
Yeah, man. It'd be awesome, dude. We if you ever get a chance, check it out. We did a show where we actually went through the entire free agency, right? And then it gave us into the draft. And the draft was completely different because we fixed every hole, very similar to what they did now. The only difference is that we kept Simpson and we got Younger at linebacker.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not mad at that at all.
But the rest of all the stuff that they did in free agency literally hit what we were doing in free agency and all that. And we didn't break the bank just like what they're doing, you know? So it's a combo, bro. And dude, it's crazy because we ended up getting Geno Smith. And I was like, yo, Geno, out of all the crap that's out there, I was like, Geno Smith is the one that I would, you know, try to. And I was getting clown. But hey, Geno's back, baby. Appreciate it.
I feel it. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So chat, y'all keep an eye out on that. We will me and my boy Johnny, we're gonna be linking up here pretty soon.
All right, what's up, man?
All right, my man. Appreciate you. Chat, appreciate y'all coming through as well, kicking it with us, watching my boy Johnny come and chop it up with me towards the end here. I'm gonna go. I gotta get the kiddos, otherwise he's gonna be pissed being stuck at school longer than he needs to. But glad to have you guys come through, hang out with me. I'm going to I might jump back on here tonight, honestly. I don't know, it depends. But you guys will probably see me at least once, maybe if not twice a week now, if I can continue to move some things around. But love it. Love y'all. Hope y'all enjoy the weekend and whatnot. I'm gonna catch you guys again. Peace.